Look at, this is a lot clearer.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
We didn't even need those fucking.
But why is this not going on? I think that's cool.
It says it's recording.
Yeah, I said to record.
Why don't you pause it then?
We're just getting started. So we record this when we remember so that we can, people who couldn't make it, and there are people who are still in hearings right now, because I believe that the abortion decrim bill is still being heard.
That started at
Yes,
one.
it is.
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, I was just there.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christy is observing for us, so she was hoping it would be over by 3:30, but apparently it's not because I don't see her on here.
Yeah. And some people are also not, I see my Lynn is here, so she's not prepping for a Zoom with Leo Jaramillo that is at 6 o'clock p.m. tonight. And so
she's done with her prep, she says.
Oh, done with her prep. All right. Well, she's
on top of it.
She is on top of it. So in any case, part of what we wanted to talk about today is a few things. One is intelligence.
Sorry, somebody's saying they can only join with audio if he uses his phone. Can you give him the Zoom meeting ID password? Sorry, you guys.
Roxanne, you keep talking.
I'm just reading the chat and somebody needs help.
No, start the meeting. I'm going to go look for that.
Criticizing me for talking. It's been a long week. Okay, so you want to start by just asking people if they have anything to share about hearings this week, or do you want to, are we talking first or?
Well, we could start there. I mean, the plan was for us to do a little bit of an intro and.
Yeah, okay, let's just there are some new people on the call, and welcome. Welcome to the new people, and welcome to those of you who have been on for, gosh, months now. What we do on this Friday call that I'm not always on is legislative strategy planning. And we have, well, today we have 40 some, we should probably have close to 50 people from all parts of the state. And we're going to, Paul and I are going to talk a little bit about what happened this week, what's coming up, which bills got passed. And then, we maybe should talk a little bit about hearing observers, if there's any questions about that. And then if people have anything they want to tell us.
Well, we also want to share stuff like what we're finding out now about how best to communicate with the legislature.
No, exactly. But I was just going to say, if they have learned anything this week, we want to hear from them too. Everybody that's on the call, what you've learned this week. There's the web ID. That's what he wants. Oh, sorry. We're looking for the web ID for Ralph, who's on the phone, and he wants us to put that in chat. And Paul is
about to do that.
Going around, and we finally got it. Okay. So there's the, okay. I hope he can get that. Oh, and Mylan, thank you. She just came in too.
Okay. So one of the things we've been finding out is, and we just heard this from one of our supporters, and she said she got it from one of the senator's secretary. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, some of you know Kathleen Burke. She's in Albuquerque, and she just sent out a note saying that Senator Secretary, at least one, and I think we heard this from somebody else too, that they're getting thousands of emails. Not that that's anything new during the session, but for some reason, they're having trouble reading them all. They're not being bundled and counted like they have been in the past. So she was told that it's best to call the legislator's Capitol phone number. And those are the ones that we've put on the committee list when we're sending out the alerts. Because sometimes there's 2 or 3 phone numbers when you go to each legislator on nmlegis.gov. So we're using the Capitol phone number. But she's also saying only Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, because they're too busy to count any messages that come in after hours or on the weekends, which this is making it very challenging. Number one, we've heard a lot of those phone numbers haven't even been updated yet, right? And that's probably just because we're only about 10 days in. You'd think they'd have them updated by now, but that's the news, and we'll tell people that when we send out the next alert tomorrow morning to focus
Unfortunately,
on
my
phone calls.
experience in phone calling is that half the time they don't answer, or it rings 20 times.
Well, yeah, and I was checking some phone numbers earlier this week to see if they were working, and I had to let the phone ring about 10 times before it went to an answering machine. And I'm going to guess they might do that on purpose because people give up after about the 6th or 7th ring. So if that's happening to you, give that a try. Let it ring 10, 11 times, and maybe the machine will come on then. So they're not making it easy.
Yeah.
And I guess what I would say about that is that means that these Zoom calls that we've been doing with legislators beforehand are even more important, and if you're going to do them again during the session, and signing up and giving public comment during the hearings. Because if they're not getting the phone calls and they're not answering or not reading emails, how are you supposed to communicate?
Okay, so Mylin is saying she's had good success calling. Mike Neese would like to know a little bit more about how you offer public comment. And so there's two ways to do that. I mean, there's different ways to do that in House and Senate. And if you sign up, if you write to this Senate secretary, or no, in the alerts for the House, which we send out.
House, you're talking about,
yeah, for the House.
Okay.
They have a link to the Zoom. And if you click that Zoom, you are in the hearing and will be called upon. You know, you will.
You raise your hand?
First of all, you want to write in and say which bill you're would like to comment on.
Write in the chat?
No. When you write the email,
no, that's Senate you're talking about.
Oh, you're right.
You're going to get everybody confused.
No, you just get, once you get into the Zoom, you will be, they will ask whether or not there are people opposed. They always ask opposed first. And people raise their hand, use the raise hand function icon at the bottom. And then they say, okay, if you don't want to comment, lower your hand. So this is a way that they can see of all the people who are in there, you know, how many are pro and how many are con. But then they also find out by virtue of lowering of the hand, how many are asking to speak. And they try and make that, they try and make that, you know, equitable. They try and have an equal amount, or at least some do. In one of the hearings I was in, there were only 2 or 3 people speaking against, and there were like 10 speaking in favor.
So that's House.
That's House, and it's also very much up to the committee chair. In some cases, they will say everybody gets 1 or 2 minutes, and we're going to be able to hear from everybody. I think that also has is a function of how many. Like with the abortion decrim, they were basically, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people who wanted to make comments, and they weren't going to take them all. And in conservation, there were also very, very many wanting to make comments. In the Senate, it's different. In the Senate, if you need to write to the secretary,
and that information is included in the alerts.
It's also on our webpage. If you just go to the legislation page, we have loaded up all the secretary's contact information for the House and the Senate. And so you can get it that way. And as Roxanne was saying, it's also in the alert that goes out.
Those emails are generally the committee abbreviation at nmlegis.gov. That's who you write to. It goes to the Zoom coordinator. So if you're going to a Senate conservation, or you want to participate in Senate conservation, you're going to see SCONC at nmlegis.gov. It's all in the alerts, and it's also on the committee hearing schedules on the legislative website, nmlegis.gov. And you have to email them your name, the bill number, whether you're for or against, and if you're affiliated with an organization, and then they will email you back to give you the link. So you can't participate in the Senate committee hearing Zooms unless you do that 24 hours in advance. You can still watch Senate committee hearings and House committee hearings on nmlegis.gov under webcasts. So anybody can watch them, but there's a participation process in particular for the Senate where you have to register 24 hours in advance or the afternoon before.
I'm sure that those Senate committee email addresses will work, but in a few instances, I've had responses from them saying, please write to me in the future. And it was somebody different. It was another secretary in there. And that's what we have in the on the website. So
right. And that is if you want to submit documents, if you have something that you want all the legislators to read and have them put in the committee hearing packet, that's what they're saying. Then you write to the committee secretary email attachment with the document and they'll put it. I mean, there must be some sort of screening process. I don't know. You've sent them a couple things. And
they've all been put in. They may focus on organizations. Right. I don't know. So but Laura, did yours get in? You had a proposed amendment.
Yeah, I don't know if it got in or not because I don't think they got any documents before the committee hearing. It was on Monday, I think, and they were expecting to get an FIR, and they didn't have that. They didn't seem to have anything on paper, and I know they didn't get my document, but it just sounded like the process broke down.
Well, yeah. I know that they got the one pagers that we submitted in like 2 or 3 hearings because the secretaries confirmed it. They have some kind of a digital folder that the legislators get with stuff in it. Now that's not the same as when they get a handout. It's a piece of paper in front of them. I think the percentage of reads is much higher from that. And it narrows the number that they get because the only way those were given to legislators was if you went to the legislative committee secretary in person and handed out multiple copies the day before, and not many people can do that. So, but in any case, we're having people ask what the status of bills are. We're going to try and post we've got a couple of people in the waiting room there.
Oh, no, those are people on phone or
no, they're
okay.
In the waiting room. Every bill has passed so far.
I think they're fine because that's the only options, right?
Oh, more.
No.
Oh, okay.
They're good.
Okay. So the every bill has passed mostly by party line, and we're going to try and get that up and create a page on the legislation page, a link to where you can get, not just the vote that it passed, but who voted for it and who voted against it. So we've had a do pass unanimously so far. And that sounds great, but I recall that being the case, maybe even going 2 and 3 weeks in, and then the icebergs start to appear. And but we have a better legislature this time. I'm kind of concerned about a few committees. The Conservation Committee has a huge number of bills where they're the first committee, and their hearings, I mean, they're 4 hours long and they get 2 bills. And so next week, Roxanne, do you want to tell them there's a couple of bills coming up in conservation?
Okay, and then just go ahead and use the chat if you have a comment or a question, and just send it to everybody, all panelists and attendees. And then so that answers Greg's question. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat now to somebody's saying go over the public comment process. I think we did that after you've signed up and the meeting's about to start. It's different for Senate. You got to sign up in advance than it is for House. They'll ask you and you raise your hand. So we covered that. Somebody's saying they're getting an answering machine and the mailbox is full. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, there's only so many ways we can get to these people. Somebody's saying the House should run the Senate Zooms because they've been more successful.
They have been.
Yeah, it was funny. Paul complimented Liz Thompson the other day. That hearing went really smoothly. And then the very next hearing, they had all kinds of technical problems. And so she blamed Paul for jinxing it. She didn't say them by name, but, okay, do we have a list of where legislators stand on the various bills? We
No.
don't.
Because they, I mean, we have anecdotal and information from all of you when you did your Zooms. But it's not like they, sign up and say, this is where I stand on things.
Right.
In many cases, they haven't seen the bills yet.
Exactly.
And even if they've been introduced for 2 weeks, if you're Representative McQueen, you're not looking at tax bills because you're the chair of House Energy and Natural Resource and Environment and Natural Resources. So you're looking at the bills that are coming your way. And so we don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of have to go by what you know about them and what they generally support. Yeah, I see Laura's got her hand up, but let's just go through this chat for a second. Somebody's saying, oh yeah, we did give you advice on email. And when they say they're not reading their emails, maybe they're looking at the subject line. And so we had said, yeah, put right in the subject line, please vote yes for whatever it is, SB 10. So you can try that, assuming that they might at least see the subject, even if they never get to the body of the email. Okay, Robert Brody's saying, yeah, it was kind of a rough process. Okay, and then could you go over how to sign up to be a recorder? Okay, we'll talk about that. That's a hearing observer. We'll talk about that at some point. Summarize the past status. Yes, we're going to do that.
We have in the, if you go to our bill list, we have the committee path, and we're almost up to date with saying it passed, Senate Judiciary, the next is Senate Rules or something like that. But we don't have like what the vote was or what the date was of the vote or any of that. And, the weekend we'll have a chance to recoup and catch up.
We'll be talking to Mylyn about how to extract that data from the wonderful form that she created for the hearing observers. And then we can start to put up actual vote numbers, although most things are passing along party lines. That's kind of, what we expect. Do you want to?
Yeah, Laura, what's on your mind there, Laura?
Well, I just wanted to comment on the hearing that I went to, Cultural and Public Affairs. This was a bill. It was a low income
Tax credit.
Tax rebate.
Yeah.
And they were advised by the committee chair not to consider the cost of the bill. Mm-hmm. But everybody in that meeting was very concerned about cost. And, they liked the merits of the bill, increasing the low income rebate. But it's almost like somebody had talked to them before the legislature began and said that we've got a really big concern about money, because they seem to be focused on that throughout the conversation. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to advise the people on this call that if you have bills with money associated with them, even if you get the bills passed in committee, that, by the time they get down to being added into the appropriations bill, and they start to reconcile that with a tax and rev bill, things could really change.
Okay,
so
thank you, Laura.
I just wanted to say beware.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to that a little bit. The truth of the matter is, like, almost all the concerns you heard, because I was on that too, came from Republicans. There was some from Democrats, but that's going to be the message that we hear. And the response is that there's about $1 billion in possible revenue that could be passed, new revenue in different bills that are listed under our tax and revenue reform. And we really need, we do not want to be operating in a deficit budget. And by that, I mean where we have left all kinds of money on the table by not passing tax reform and not generating enough revenue. So then we're going like, oh, well, we can't help these people. So Carl Kaiser, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to comment. I watched part of that same committee meeting on the webcam, and I wanted to bring attention to Stephanie Lord, who had multiple questions. And quite frankly, um, I suppose this is a standard Republican talking point ideology, but I want to bring up a couple specific examples. One is she asked the sponsor if the rebate was fully refundable, and if somebody didn't pay any taxes, obviously, so this is an personal income tax credit.
Right.
And the sponsor said, well, yeah, it would be. And so she used that as a talking point when in fact everybody pays taxes, whether we pay it an excise tax, grocery receipts tax, something else. And if somebody doesn't pay income tax, this is part of the same reason to get money back to the poorest in the state. That's one thing. Another thing is she misrepresented. For instance, like she purposely talked about when you use the low-income comprehensive tax credit, you use a modified income. You do not use standard income, and it takes into account dependents, and it also takes into account your age above 65. And she just acted as if it wouldn't be counted, and that it wouldn't do what it intended to do. So my real point in all of this is there was some intentional misrepresentation there. It was done by this particular Republican. But I suspect this is going to be part of the party line, and we have to be very careful watching it.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. That's very good.
Great. Do you want to get back to a couple?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike Neese is saying, do they send the Zoom link? Maybe you're talking about Senate hearings. The House Zoom links are available as soon as the hearing gets scheduled, and we're sending those. Were you talking about Senate, Mike?
Yeah, in the Senate, I was on the list to speak for produced water, and I never got a Zoom link. So does that Zoom link come up just as the bill is coming
Yes.
up, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I think they don't let you in via Zoom until they call on you
Well,
to
different
speak.
committees do it different ways. I think they're starting to let people in 5 at a time because it's taking so long. Just once a person is going to be in, and they've got to turn on your video, turn on your unmute.
So you have to have the webcast going to see what's going on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you don't get into the Zoom until they're calling on you.
Well, you can see it.
Oh, you
You
can?
can see it, yes.
Oh, okay.
But you're just not into where you can comment or anything.
And Mike also asked, once the bill carries over, does your name carry over with it? I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to guess no, but we can try to find out. So like if it got held for a committee hearing the following week, are you still on the list to speak?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to guess no, but okay. This is from Michael. The PDF copy of the committee hearing schedule says you will be contacted. Yeah, you'll be contacted by our Zoom operator with virtual meeting instructions. That isn't always happening, is what I've heard. Some people are not hearing back, right? Even though they've written.
Well, that's what Mike was just saying.
Yeah, okay.
But you know what? I think we need to talk about messages and stuff. And if we, if we run over, we can go over some of these logistical kinds of things. Because I'm really interested in hearing what other people who have been doing observations have found in their hearings, like the reconnaissance we got from Carl and Laura. And I see Jeff's hand up, but maybe he's got something for us.
No, I'm sorry. I was responding to the last comments that were just made regarding the process. If you want to make comments, and at the same time, you want to be an observer, what I heard might preclude the opportunity to observe a whole session if you're only going to be let in at the time you're going to be making the comments, or right before that time, that you, in fact, couldn't be an observer for a whole committee meeting and at the same time make comments. Or is that possibly the case from what I just heard?
I didn't quite follow that question, Jeff.
What was the question?
What I heard earlier was a comment about the process. When Mike Neese was just asking about when he was going to be let in to make his comments regarding, I believe, the clean water issue regarding fracking or whatever. And there was a comment about the fact that they weren't going to be letting him in until what I thought I heard right before he could in fact make those comments. So earlier we were talking about, well, you could, sign up to both make comments and at the same time concurrently be an observer for a complete committee meeting. It sounds like that might preclude that opportunity to do both.
Well, if you're in the Senate, it would, not the House committees though, but Senate, yeah, if you're going to try to observe the whole meeting, you would have to be on the webcast, right?
It's as if you're watching, but there's another level of being engaged in the process. You've gotten the Zoom invite, you're watching on Zoom, but then at some point they admit you into the waiting room so that you're ready to speak.
Okay.
And that doesn't happen until the bill has been called, not just the bill called, but that they're done with their introductions and stuff and they go to comment.
Okay, so you can still observe before you speak.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I misinterpreted what that meant.
And to clarify, you do get the email like well before the hearing.
You're supposed to,
You're supposed to, and I have so far.
but not everybody has. That's what I've heard.
So
Okay,
are there people who have been hearing observers that have any information about what they have found
That they wanna
by
share.
virtue of being in there and sort of hearing the speaking points of the opposition? Raise your hand if you have, and if not, everybody's in favor of all the bills, including Republicans. That surprises me. I mean,
no, if they have comments, okay, there's Linda.
Linda
Linda
Hinckley.
has a comment.
Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, Linda. Oh, you're muted though.
And then we've got Dave.
Oh, no, did
No,
you?
I,
Oh, go ahead.
I have sat in on maybe 4 or 5 committee meetings, but only on the webcast part. I haven't gone in through the Zoom. But the thing I've observed, which I observed last year as well, is that the Republicans in their questioning process, they take up so much more airtime than any of the Democrats. And they kind of beat it like forever, going back to the same points. And
It's a strategy, yeah, to
it's a
slow it down.
strategy. And they slow it down. And sometimes it's really been true that they plan to do more than one bill. And the whole afternoon has been filled up with not public comments, because in the Senate, often they will limit it to 5 pro and 5 con.
Mhm.
And that's how they've done it. But no, once it gets into the committee members being able to participate, then those Republicans are really, they're roadblocks.
Oh, exactly. Because then you can't get to the bills.
And I've talked to Damon Eli about that, and he said if we were in the minority, we would do the same thing. So it's the only tool they've got in their toolkit. So we've got Dave and then Barbara Conroy. Dave?
Yeah, I guess I'm just echoing what Linda just said. This legislator named Dow from Truth or Consequences,
Right.
she was pure and simply grandstanding, and she, I guess, yeah, never mind. So anyway, yeah, the point is made, so I'll shut up. But it was quite annoying.
Yeah.
Barbara
Thank you.
Conroy?
Hi, Barbara.
Yeah, I went to the end of life options bill. And the things that were very positive that struck me is that the technology was absolutely excellent. And it showed, papers that were presented or plans or graphics or whatever, statistics. And then in the accepting comments from the public, the chairman did a beautiful job of making sure that everybody knew they had 3 minutes. The clock was like this big on the screen so that people really could keep track of that. The other thing, she took all of the opposition speakers first, and then the support speakers second. And I noticed that the vote on it was 7-4 in favor of do pass. So I was just very impressed on how easy it was to do that, to go into the hearings and to be there. In fact, I kind of hope that we never go back to having to drive and find a parking place. And
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree completely. And if
Yeah.
any of you have the opportunity, you can go to the webcast recording. I really strongly recommend
Of that
listening
particular
to
hearing.
that particular hearing, the end of life hearing,
Mm.
HB 47,
Yeah.
Elizabeth Whitefield, end of life options. It was so powerful.
And
We
that-
were both just sobbing.
Oh.
yeah, mine was too, yeah.
The stories,
And
if you go to the webcast, it's House Health and Human Services. It was just this morning.
That's right.
This morning at 9 o'clock or 8:30.
Right. Carl?
Yeah, Ralph and I were talking about the fact that the throughput through these committees is really sad right now, particularly when we have a 2-to-1 advantage in most of the committees I've been sitting in. Paul, 1, is this normal? And 2, should we be putting pressure on the chair people to push more bills through? And just reiterating everything everybody's been saying, there is a delay tactic here, and we are not going to get the environmental bills through unless we do something, I think.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I share that concern. And, it's a tough one because it's the committee chairs we'd want to be putting pressure on. And when they're operating under severe constraints but for example, Liz Stefanix is the chair of conservation.
Yeah.
And they've been getting 2 bills per hearing through. I haven't been on any of the House Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee hearings this year yet. But Matthew McQueen manages that much differently. If a Republican is going on and on, he cuts them off. And last
Yay,
year
Matthew.
there was one where Rod Montoya just kept and doing. He doesn't cut them off if they're saying something substantive, but if they're saying the same issue that's been brought up 10 times, and they're just talking, he cuts them off. And he pissed off Montoya. He stormed out of the hearing room and slammed
Good.
doors and stuff. And this is when they were in person. It was lovely to see. I think that at some point we do want to start communicating to chairs that as politely and respectfully as possible, because you really don't want to piss them off, but to say, isn't there something you can do to expedite this process? You've contained public comment to X amount of time. Is it possible that you could say to the committee members that we're going to discuss this for 30 minutes? And then also, I mean, Democrats definitely don't take up much of the space or time, but they could take up even less. They've got them. They just need to get to the vote.
Here, here.
Okay, you want to go back to some of the chat questions? Somebody's asking for daily updates. I guess they mean on the votes. We're not
working-
there yet.
We're not there yet. This weekend we'll probably be able to do a little bit of catch up.
Yeah, and it'll only be on the transformational bills, right?
Right.
I don't think that's all we're going to be able to
But
track, because that's all we have hearing observers for. And I have to say that, you can get the info on nmlegis.gov website, but they're so behind. I mean, these are votes. I was trying to find today, I looked again, that happened 2 or 3 days ago, committee votes, and it just says, oh, an action has been taken, but nothing's been filed officially. So the only way we know votes is if one of us or one of you who's observing has filled out a sheet and told us how the vote went. So they seem to be behind on everything. It's interesting. I guess it's just with the new system and all the technology, it's really hanging people up.
We're going to try and work this weekend and download, because even if they were recording their votes, very often it's like do pass 8-3. They don't identify who voted what. Sometimes they do list them. But with the observers in the room, we're going to have the actual vote tallies, and we can upload or download from the Google forms that people have used to complete them, complete the observations into an Excel spreadsheet. And when we started to do that, it's a huge spreadsheet. I mean, it's crazy. And so we need some time to sort through it.
Yeah,
And
it'll
at the
be-
point that we're able to do it, it'll probably come pretty quickly once we figure it all out.
Yeah,
And
it'll be
then we'll
great to
start
have all
putting
that
that
data.
up. We
Yeah.
would like to share like who voted for what, but the bottom line is I have not seen a Democrat vote against one of our bills yet. I don't
Right,
think it's
mostly
happened.
party lines, as we said, and somebody else commented, but except today, a Republican voted for the.
Yeah, we've had a few Republicans.
Yeah.
So Athena, you're up.
Oh, hi, sorry. I just wanted to make a comment that after a vote has been had in the committee, they can't put it on the website until it's been heard on the floor. So because the Senate is only meeting on the floor once every other week or something, we're not going to get those updates. It's not going to be passed on to the second committee until then.
Oh, that's not the way, in the past, they usually had the committee votes up there the next day,
Because
actually.
they met every day.
The House chamber floor.
Oh, interesting. So they're
Yeah.
holding all the votes until the floor? meetings?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you notice, the House has been meeting more often and they've been passing it on to the next committee.
Okay, well
Okay.
then, hearing observers, your job just got even more important. So it's the only way we're gonna know how these committees are voting is if one of us is in there recording the votes, so.
So I also wanted to alert you, and Roxanne actually will probably be the one doing this, but we have some new bills that have been introduced just in the last couple days. Why don't you talk?
Okay, let me just answer one question really quick from Jeff. Yes, as an observer, you're in the committee. Sometimes there's 8 or 10 bills on the list. We're only asking you to observe bills from our transformational list. Sometimes there's more than one from the transformational list, but if there's only one, that's the only one. Only one from the transformation list, that's the only one you need to cover. And I'll try to be clear about that when I send you notes about what's coming up.
Mylyn's got a comment.
No, I just see that Ralph is on the phone and wanted to speak. So I just wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Thanks, Ralph.
thank you. Ralph?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay, because sometimes on my phone, it'll mute me after I had muted it if I don't speak in time. Okay, all right, well, on the idea of trying to capture the votes, and I think we've kind of already mentioned the webcast, but I have used the webcast to go in and I particularly look for the votes on certain of these bills. And I did take note on SJR 4, which was the one for paid legislature. I mean, that's the short title for it. And that one passed 8-3 with Mark Moores voting for it. Usually it would be a 7-4 party line vote. If you want us, if you want to reach out to us, that, even put it out there and we can respond saying, okay, I will go in and I will listen to the webcast on certain of these transformational bills and record that. I'm happy to be one of those people if that's what you want to get to.
Well, right now.
That's one question.
Yeah, okay, I'll just adjust that really quickly. Thank you. So far, we have had every hearing covered by a volunteer observer, but
Oh, nice.
if we
Okay.
miss one, that's a good way to go back and get the vote. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, sure. And then back on the question I had put out there about, I know we don't want to piss off Liz Stefanik, but she looks like a person that would not be. She looks very approachable, amenable. But is there a way that we can, with some of the other senators that are on that committee that we think are friendly to this, ask through them that somehow they change the process and she consider putting on the agenda first, either next Tuesday or Thursday, these transformational bills that have so far they are now part of a 14 bill backlog through the first week of the Senate Conservation Committee. And then I just want to throw this in as well. I don't have the Senate rules memorized, but I couldn't find anything as I was scanning through them, Mike Nees kind of hinting, or rather telling me where I could find this stuff. I don't see anything in there that says that the chair has the absolute authority for setting the agenda. I think that might be just tribal.
Well, it's pretty much tradition, and there is another way that it can be done, and it's viewed as being very kind of uppity. I don't remember what it is, but I do think that next week we'll start offering messaging about contacting your legislator about getting a bill advanced. Now, the one thing I would say is 3 of our bills in House Conservation are now like ready to be heard. They're like second, third, and fourth on the agenda.
So, I can tell you about that, and they're scheduled again for Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So SB 83, local choice energy. I mean, these have been on the agenda for the last 2 meetings, but they haven't got to them.
Right.
SB 86, use of water for oil and gas. That's amending the Produced Water Act. And SB 112, Sustainable Economy Task Force. They're moving up a little bit. There's still 2 or 3 bills on top. So it's just impossible to know if they're going to get to them. But yeah, maybe a little pressure, but you know, who knows? I mean, she may be getting pressure from people who are supporting the bills that are on the top of the list. I mean, we can try that, but these 3 are on the list again for Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, just to let you know. We're sending an alert about that.
And they're also at the top of the list. So
no, there's a few ahead of them.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
No, they're not at the very top.
I mean, like SB 86 was number 7 on Thursday, but you're saying it may be number 3 on Thursday? I mean, on next Tuesday?
You know, I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, neither do I.
Yeah, if you go to, I mean, I'm going to figure it out and it'll be out in the alert tomorrow morning, but you could also go to nmlegis.gov, and if you click on the updated, go to what's happening, the Senate committee schedule, the Conservation Committee list for Tuesday is on there if you want to look at the order.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure. And since we're talking about new hearings, the other one that I just saw today when it got updated is Monday morning at 8 a.m., which of course I'm thinking, how are people going to make phone calls about this if you can only make your calls Monday to Friday, 9 to 5? And they just put the darn thing up there a few hours ago and it starts at 8 a.m. I don't know. But this is House Education Committee is going to hear HB 86. That's one of the rural bills that it's Native American Library, Internet, and Education. And so, you can read about it on the website, but so those 2 are new. And then I'm going to check again later and we'll see if there's anything else new.
That's a bill I mean, one of the things Retake has shifted in terms of our priorities is to vastly increase the rural bills that we're advocating for.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
And then did you want me to talk about the 2?
Good idea.
Just got new numbers?
Yes.
There's 2 bills that they finally have numbers just today. And Health Security Planning and Design is one of them. And that's HB 203. Not scheduled for a hearing yet, but you can read about that on the website if you want to. And the other one, the one that I've been waiting for a while for, is the Food and Ag, what we were calling Food and Ag Omnibus, but the actual bill is SB 207, and it is called.
This is a great bill.
Oh, it's pretty incredible. I just read it very carefully, 12 pages earlier today to try to figure out what was it about. It's HB 207, Food, Hunger, and Farm Act. And they are going to do well, the plan is they're going to get all these state organizations together to make plans to enhance job creation through agriculture and food distribution, increase the purchase of food that's grown in New Mexico by all the state agencies and schools and everything. They're going to improve meal programs at schools and childcare facilities and higher ed institutions. There's one of the points is to plan to support resilient and traditional agricultural practices, land stewardship, soil and water conservation, and traditional indigenous food practices and seed saving, which is pretty exciting. And a lot of other things related to hunger, food, malnutrition, food production. So I think it's going to be a great bill, SB 207. And that's, what else?
Any other comments from other people? I had something in my head just 1 second ago.
Oh, somebody wanted to know, do we want to go over what passed this week that we know of? And then if,
Yeah.
okay, I have a brief list of what I was able to
Oh,
grab.
no, I know what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
This is important too. We've had a ton of people tell us that they're not getting the alerts, and even though they've signed up multiple times. So if that's we decided, well, we can fix that problem, and then Roxanne came up with an even better idea. On the legislation page, at the very top of it, we have a link to all the legislative alerts. And so, and that goes up when Roxanne hits send on the alert to send out the alert. I've copied and pasted it into the website right then. And so they're available usually about 8 o'clock in the morning every day. And then the other thing that we realized is we sent out an alert today and there were 2 mistakes in it. And no, I didn't do it this, normally if there's a mistake, it's because Roxanne didn't edit.
I kept saying Friday, 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 and then I put January 30th, which is tomorrow.
And it confused one person and they wrote to us, but when you've sent an alert, you can't bring it back and fix it. And because it's an email that's gone out. But what we're going to do is we're going to start sending our alerts and it'll say, these are the highlights of this, of what's in this alert. Click here for the information. And then it will go to, you'll go to the alert page and we can fix that. And we can update it because things change during the day. And so we will make, if something has changed from the alert that we sent out, or if there's even something new that, like what you just said about that bill at 8 o'clock in the morning, if we knew about that at 1 in the afternoon, we could update the last alert and put a note there. And so that there's something urgent to take a look at. So people, if you could get in the habit of just checking the alert page, you'll be able to be even kept more current.
Yeah. So somebody's asking, Linda, I think, how can I use the observation form, which is an online form, while I'm watching the committee hearing? So you do have the option of printing it out and handwriting it, but then you're going to have to sit down and enter all that information into the online form afterwards. What have other people been doing? Do you have like split screen and you watch the hearing on one half of your screen and you have the forum open on the other? Does anybody have any advice about that?
Yeah, you just open another tab.
Yeah, that's what I've done.
So you just split your screen.
Yeah, you can split your screen or you can just have the thing open and listen.
Listen to it. And
it's not that dramatic what you're seeing there.
As long as you're hearing it, you can do that. Okay, so I hope
old people talking.
I hope that works for everybody. And I'd say as a last resort, yeah, you can print it out. I did send out, Linda, I don't think you're on the hearing observers. If you want to observe and you haven't signed up to do that, please do that because we now have 18 or 20 people. We started with 14. I made a schedule and then we got a lot more. And now I have to completely redo the schedule. I told some of you about that in an email the other day. So if you want to be an official observer, please sign up. And the link is on the NM legislation page. It says hearing observers. sign up here. And there's also a link to the observation form on that page. And it asks you when you're available. Because what I'm trying to do is just give people the same shift every week. And if we have enough, there would only be one AM or PM shift for each person a week. Right now, we don't quite have enough because that would be, we put 2 people morning, 2 people afternoon, 4 times 7, that's 28. And we have about 20 now. So I am giving people, most people, a couple of shifts to cover. And that way, because we don't really know what's coming up when, it's really hard for us to assign based on your interests, even though we did try to do that by asking people what their interests were. Instead, it works a lot more smoothly if you know in advance, okay, I've got to cover Wednesday morning, whatever it is. And then sometimes you won't have to do anything if there's no hearing on Wednesday morning, but I will notify you by the night before or the afternoon, or as soon as I know when something's coming up during your shift, I will send you a note about that.
Wait, breaking news.
Wait, Carl, do you have a question or?
Wait, breaking news. HB 7 passed 8-4 on party lines. It's going to the House floor. So the abortion repeal bill has gone to the floor. It's moving. Carl?
Quick question, HB 9, how are you guys classifying it? Priority or transformational?
Which
That's
is the
climate solutions.
well, that's the bill.
And Stansbury.
Yeah, probably priority. I mean, it's.
Yeah, we don't have it on.
We have to take
right
a
now.
look at it. It was just introduced and we kept hearing about it. And eGolf has said something hyperbolic about how great it is. I think he called it the Green New Deal for New Mexico. And, he also said the Produced Water Act was the greatest piece of environmental legislation ever passed in New Mexico. So he can be a little hyperbolic about his bills. But we'll take a look at it. It just came out. And so it's possible, it's not very likely that many bills are going to get moved from priority to transformational, at least until some bills pass and are at the governor's desk. Carl, question.
It's 28 pages. It's a big bill to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other Carl.
Oh, the other Carl. We got 3 Carls. Carl Kaiser.
Yeah. I wanted to emphasize a point you already made up briefly, Paul, is that when people are talking about money right now, that doesn't include any enhancements that may happen, any tax expenditures that might be zeroed out this time. It also may or may not include another consensus. The last consensus for the budget was done in December. I don't know if one's going to happen before. If you go scan commodity prices, oil's above 50. For New Mexico, that's a good thing. The other thing I wanted to, and clearly what I'm saying is what you said before, Paul, is that you know, a bunch of the budgets right now, or the department budgets are, you know, somewhere between 1% and 5% lower than they've been before, and that may or may not have to happen. We've been starved for 10 years. And the final thing is, in the committee, and I suspect this may come up again, Lord brought up the idea that, well, look at this moratorium on federal leases, you know, that's going to bring in less money, and how are you going to have money to do anything? Well, that's pure rubbish, because it's a moratorium and all of the oil companies have stocked up on leases at a fire sale, and it's not going to make any difference for what, a year, 18 months, maybe even 2 years. So we really have to the extent we may not be able to do that. You know, we're not going to have a time to respond for us, but in some of our things, we might want to put some little plug in on how budget stuff looks better now, just as a general statement, and just kind of put it in our other statements, perhaps.
Right. Well, one of the things that I hope to be able to do this weekend, in addition to looking at the observation forms to capture all the votes, is to start looking at the counter arguments and the responses, because that will change our messaging to our legislators. We need to give them the ammo they need to diffuse misinformation about, you know, how broke we are, how we're going to destroy the gas and oil industry. We are getting lots of tidbits of information, even from conversations people have had with legislators. Like, for instance, we've heard that Katie Duhigg is getting waffling and has said that the Green Amendment can't possibly get through the Rules Committee. Well, the Rules Committee has 4 solid Democrats, and then 2 or 3 others, including Ivy Soto and Duhigg and Linda Lopez. Those are the 3 others. We need 2 of those. So if, you know, that doesn't sound like an impossible task, but it does cause us to want to get in touch with those legislators. And what I did was I texted Daniel Ivy Soto, starting off with telling him how brilliant he was for crafting SJR 7 the way he did. And I actually believed that. It was very clever. And
That's the paid legislature.
Paid legislature, and it, instead of it being about raises or salaries for legislators, it's to authorize the Ethics Commission to decide on salaries. And so it's not legislators constantly asking for money for pay. It was a very clever idea, and it got Mark Moores to support it. And so I kind of round-nosed a little bit, and then said, well, I'm hearing some concerns about the Green Amendment. Would you be open to talking about it on my radio show? And he goes, sure, let's get it scheduled. So if you can get in touch with some of these legislators and start having communication, especially those of you who have done Zooms with them, and you can email them, they're probably going to be looking at their emails a little more attentively over the weekend. So this is a good time to do it. And just really emphasize, some of the messaging that we have in our summaries and in the shorter, the full summaries that we have for transformational bills and the shorter summaries that we have in other bills.
Yeah. So we're almost out of time. So I just want to say again, if you haven't signed up to be a hearing observer and it's something you want to do, please sign up this afternoon, even if you can, because I'm going to be making a whole new schedule over the weekend. And I hope we can sort of stick with that for the rest of the session. And if we get a few new people after that, we'll probably just say you're on call when other people can't observe. But that sign up form you can get to on our website, retakeourdemocracy.org, go to NM legislation on the top menu bar, and you'll see hearing observers sign up somewhere in that list on that page. And then for those of you who are signed up over the weekend, I will be sending a new schedule out. So look for that sometime Saturday or Sunday, and we'll start with that. I'll probably try to do it tomorrow because we'll try to start with it on Monday. And it'll be a little bit different from the one I already sent out earlier this week.
So I just want to close by thanking all of you. Your tenacity and advocacy and thoughtfulness is making this process, that is totally crazy, sort of manageable. And I can't remember who it was in the beginning, but they were saying that they hope they don't go back to in-house, in-person stuff. I miss running into the legislators in the hallway, but I don't miss, I'm enjoying being able to sit in my pajamas and watch a hearing and drink my coffee and comfort.
Yeah, it's a big deal when we go, oh, I took a shower and changed into real clothes today. It's like a big accomplishment.
So
somebody's asking, interview with DIS? Who's that?
Huh?
Daniel Ivy Soto, when is your interview with him?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I had Patty Lundstrom write back saying she wanted to do a radio show too. Sometimes the impulse to say, yeah, I'll do it, doesn't coincide with the reality of being basically tethered to your computer 24/7. I have basically given both of them open opportunities, and anytime I'll make time for you. And we'll just have to see. But it would probably, if we get it done next week, it would be next Saturday morning at 8:30. And But, you know, at the very least, you know, he knows I have concerns and he's responding. And so that's not a bad thing. But anyway, thanks, everybody. Next week, we'll probably, I think next week they have a full round of committee hearings again. And then we'll get a little bit of a break because then they'll be in the chambers and on the chamber floor and there'll be votes there. But, you know, you can't comment, you can watch, and there'll only be one of them at a time instead of 5. So we'll see what we can do in terms of, and I'll try and text Liz Stefanix and see if she has any thoughts about maybe expediting things in that committee, because you're right, it's torture watching that. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Anybody else got a comment?
Have a good
All right.
weekend. Take care.
Bye-bye.